Okay. Is this working? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get the chair up there and get the mic up there. Hey, good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see you.
You had a good drive?
Yes.
You came this morning from Germany, right?
Yes. 3.5 hours.
Dedication.
Yes. And so it's fifth time.
Fifth time MeasureCamp Amsterdam. So you've been to every MeasureCamp Amsterdam.
Yes.
Very nice.
Feels like coming home.
Yeah. Yeah. So normally I close the session with that question, but let me start it with you. So why should somebody who's watching right now, why should they attend MeasureCamp? Like what is it that makes you drive 3 hours on a Saturday to come to MeasureCamp Amsterdam?
Hard to answer in just one sentence. It is the people, the atmosphere, and the knowledge. So it is getting to know people who are just nerdy like all of us in some kind. The knowledge everyone brings in. Doesn't matter if it's a junior or professional or some like Steen, like always in the business, but everybody brings in some kind of knowledge. Everybody is keen to share and to listen. There's no competition between people showing their stuff. It's not like mine is better than yours. No, it's we are equal. We are here to share and to learn. And especially here in Amsterdam, the atmosphere is like coming home. It's like meeting your family and having good chats. So
yeah, you sold it. I'm coming. I'll wait. We're here. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So if you're watching this, you've never been to MeasureCamp, go to a MeasureCamp. There's probably one close to you.
Yes, please.
So I invited you to talk not necessarily about MeasureCamp, but about GDPR. So you work at DHL. So what is your role at DHL?
I'm working now since 8 years at DHL. Nowadays as team lead of a small digital analytics team. We are responsible for everything around implementation. I always tend to say reporting, but we try to convince our stakeholders that they do the reporting themselves. So not reporting, but kind of using the tools, getting insights, A/B testing, online feedback, session recording. So everything around these topics of analytics and UX exploration, how we name it. And we are a team of 5 people, including myself, looking after DHL.com, which is the main site, and at the same time consulting others in the company who have websites in all of these topics. And as a side topic, that's funny because it started like we didn't want to have this. It was GDPR.
Nobody wanted to have this at the beginning, huh?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And still, I don't know if you want to, but yeah, so we have to.
Yeah.
And I think 2.5 years ago, we started with, you need a consent banner. And we were like, oh, yeah, okay, so what can we do? And I had the luck that I have a team member who was really keen into looking into this, and he set up like an A/B test for consent banners, and so we get started. So it was more from a technical side that we started this, and then later on get more into, okay, what does GDPR mean for us? Where do we struggle? Where do we have to look at? And overall, what does it mean for us? So it is not just we have to follow regulations, but there's mentality we build up on this. So
yeah, because I think that let's call it case study. You guys published it, right? The results of the A/B test of the consent banner. I think that got a lot of traction in our world, right? A lot of people looked at it because it is one of the topics that we are scared of, right? Like if you say to an analytics or to a marketeer or an analytics specialist, like we're gonna put a consent banner on, then they think, well, if the consent banner works, right? Because usually they don't work, but if the consent banner actually does what it says it does, then I'm gonna lose a lot of my data. How did it go internally at DHL?
Completely the same. So marketers are still scared if we talk also about other websites. I think, so the first thing, what I said before, it's the mentality. The mentality is no consent, no tracking. From Stefan Amel. And really, we are really into this because we're saying it. We have to take the user's choice as something which has value for us. And for us as Deutsche Post DHL, we always work with on the part of privacy, because if you transport a mail or package, you don't have to look into it, right? So there's something about privacy, about something you do. So privacy is at our heart.
Yeah.
And with this, in this moment, we said, okay, we have to do it here too. At the same time, we said we are analysts. What we can do is we can look into data. Why don't we do this? So if we have a concept banner which is not performing, and it wasn't performing at all in the beginning, I think we had a conversion rate or opt-in rate of 40%. So really, really not good. So what you can do is, let's have a look into and what can we change and how can we optimize? And that's where Christopher came up and said, okay, let's do an A/B test. And he figured out 144 possible tests. I was like, okay, that's too much. But then we narrowed it down to, I think, 9 in the end we tested. And why should this be a problem to test this? Because you have two things in mind. The first thing is you value the choice of the user, because no opt-in, nothing is happening. At the same time, you try to make the best out of it. That should be fair. And so, no, that's where we're coming from. I think this is something everybody can do. Everybody can test their content banners.
Yeah.
I have to say we are very privileged, because people will come to our website no matter what, because they want to know where their parcel is.
Yeah,
So
where's my package? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of privilege in things we do, because we will have traffic no matter what. But at the same time, it just can encourage people to test.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to lose. If you test, there's nothing to lose.
And if you, maybe can you summarize a little bit, what were your main learnings from the consent banner A/B test? Like what were the things that really stuck out to you?
I think the main thing was the more, sorry for this wording, but the more into your face it is, the more likely people will recognize it. The smaller it is, the less they will recognize it. Is it good or is it not? I don't know. So perhaps the bigger it is, people are more likely to say, I don't care, yes or no, but go away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you go with their option, if they say no, you don't track, that's fine. So yes, perhaps it's a little bit annoying for them, but it helps you. So I don't say, because I didn't say we need to annoy people. That is the regulation. They say you need to annoy people because you need to have the opt-in.
Yeah.
Then opt-in is always annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the bigger it is, the more people see it, the more likely they will interact.
Yeah, I can I was thinking when you mentioned a lot of people will come to your website anyway, right? I was thinking about my own situation. I'm waiting for a package. I click the link. I think you have a lot of mobile traffic, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then, especially then, right? Big pop-up, opt-in, you just click go away. I want to know where my package is.
Yes.
Right. So I can also imagine that the state of mind when the user is at your website, and in your case, they have a really clear goal in mind. They know under this pop-up
There's something
is what they want to see, right? So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this definitely makes a difference. We have also seen that with marketing campaigns, it is more likely that marketing campaigns don't get so much opt-in than a track and trace page, because people the idea of what I get behind is clearer.
You want the dopamine hit. You already know it, right? So when you say a marketing page, what could be like an example of that? Like
We have a lot of brand marketing stuff going on. Yeah. So we had a big e-commerce campaign last year to attract kind of customers who do e-commerce.
Okay, so B2B.
Yes, B2B.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, okay, and there you would see a lower opt-in rate than on the track.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and so you started this journey. I think it's really nice that you went through this test. Also, really amazing that you shared it, because for a lot of us, that's a super valuable insights and also inspiration for companies to take that approach. How was management involved? So you head up your analytics team, but obviously there is layers above, right? And compliance is usually, it's probably also something that goes top down. Like they tell you we have to do something.
So it went from the data protection officers to us through different hierarchies. In the end, the hierarchies were not involved in the tests at all, but in the beginning and in the end. So they said, okay, we need to do something. So we get the request. And how we did it was completely on us. So
Okay.
we decided to go for an A/B test. We decided to challenge it.
Yeah.
And then later on, it was kind of presenting everything and bringing it back and saying, okay, so, I think once in between we had a moment where we said, okay, we want to do another test. That's why we can't roll out yet. And this had to be approved because it was for the whole website with the traffic. And so then it needed to be, to have a decision where someone says, it's okay if we wait another 2 months and just test before we roll out.
Yeah.
Especially it was in the beginning. So what you could also do is you just roll out. You have a content all over your website, and then on different pages you test different things. So also possible.
Yeah. If you have enough traffic.
Exactly. It depends on your setup. So that's also why what we did is nothing someone should copy. It was special for us.
Yeah.
It's more, as you said, the idea behind
inspiration
to do something like this.
Yeah. But what I'm also interested in, like DHL, I think is one of the bigger enterprises of the world, right? So decision making is hard, right? Making a decision across an organization is even harder. The more people work together, the more that balance is off. And in this case, you and the marketeers are the ones that use the data. Mm-hmm. And then maybe on the product side also, there's also data that's being used for other insights, but mostly you're impacted by this. But were you guys proactive, like we have to do something with this, or was it top down, you guys have to do something with this?
In regards of the test itself?
No, in regards to taking GDPR seriously, right? To basically making those steps and really moving towards it.
I had already ideas about, so I followed GDPR, but to be honest, I hadn't had it in front of my eyes like our data protection officers had, and they brought it forward and they said, okay, we need to do something because this is a big risk. And so there we took action. Nowadays it is different because, and that's also something I can just encourage everybody who has the possibility to get close with their data protection officers. And people are often afraid of talking to them. Or it's like, oh, data protection, I don't know.
Gonna ask hard questions. Yeah.
But the funny thing is we have every week half an hour slot with our data, we have more than one, but with one of our data protection officers responsible for us. And we really, really have a good connection. So shout out to Andreas Schmitz, who's our data protection officer, because he's really, it went kind of in a journey because we needed to understand him and he needed to understand us.
Yeah.
And the more we worked together and the more friendly we were to each other because we wanted to understand our worlds, the better it got. And so nowadays it is, if we bring something forward, he's directly into it and say, hey, let's do it like this. And he knows our mindset and we know his mindset. So if we approach him, he already knows we try to think about how it could be solved.
Yeah, so it's a bi-directional thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's, like you said, it's scary. Not that all DPOs are scary, but it's for a lot of marketers and analysts, it feels like you are giving up something, right? Mm-hmm. And the others are taking. Of course, that's not, that's probably not how you should look at it. But the knee-jerk reaction is your data is being taken, right? So why would you'll just let them tell me what they want to take, and then I'll give it, right? But that's not the right approach. You'll probably end up with a less usable data set and a less usable relationship than if you talk to them.
Yeah, I think I made a talk 2 years ago about this, where I said, most implementations are already affected by data loss because if you use, back in the days, universal analytics, you work on sample rates most of the time. Yeah. So you already not working on 100%. So if you have then a consent banner in place, the change you have is perhaps even not as big as you think. So it's the first thing to try to see how big the difference is. And then the second thing is to focus on certain areas and say, if I want to improve something, do I have the right amount of data at this place? Perhaps you have, but you haven't looked at it. And what is the right amount of data? Do we need, and again, privileged situation of someone who has a million and more page views a month on the pages, but at the same time, is it let me take a step back. We can differentiate between bad and good traffic. And if GDPR and consent banners and everything takes away the bad traffic, those who perhaps just bounce and who are not really interested, is this a problem for your business? Perhaps not. Yeah. The problem with this is you don't know.
Yeah.
But again, then you should be an analyst and dive into and find out, is it really a problem for yourself, or perhaps you preserve the good data and can work with it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really valid point, right? What's the data that you're going to miss by following the no consent, no tracking, what do we call it, approach paradigm? Because you will definitely miss data. Did you guys actually share where you ended up consent rate-wise?
I can also share the actual data. So
Okay.
we're constantly tracking it. We are between 70 and 75%.
Yeah.
Depending on, and mobile is higher than desktop. So mobile we have roundish 80%, and then desktop is, I think, roundish 65 or something like this.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
And that's a combination of, do you measure explicitly people clicking no, or is it a combination of ad blockers, so people not seeing it at all, plus people clicking no?
No. This is really just from the consent management tool itself.
Exactly.
The opt-in rates.
Yeah. So there's also a little bit of the dark part of people blocking everything, right?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's also a benefit which we figured out, because Lukas Oldenburg has written a great article series about bots. And how to filter them and everything. And his conclusion between the lines, and this is something I second and I would always put first, is consent management is the best bot blocker you can have. Because most bots are not trained to click.
Yeah.
And at least if they are not trained to click opt-in, because they also want to have a conversion rate thing going on to be paid. But most of them are stupid. So they will fall under the umbrella of, not tracked, done.
Yeah.
So from this perspective, consent can help you already.
Yeah.
We also saw of one of our smaller websites, a big drop of data, which was coming from an Amazon, whatever, as an AWS server, which we wouldn't have figured out before. And so we saw this drop after consent and was like, okay, there is something happening with bots.
Yeah.
So this can, on this end of the story, it can help you a lot.
Yeah, I think definitely, I know for e-commerce clients I've had in the past, there's a lot of competitors scraping your website with, for checking your price change and stuff like that. I know that I've had an Amazon, refer like bot traffic like that, and that we figured out that it was that. Maybe FedEx is
who knows? No. To be honest, I don't think FedEx and UPS, but no, in general. So there are a lot of for us. It's more there are a lot of websites who try to scrape tracking, the tracking API. Yeah. So people use their service to track their parcel instead of ours. So these kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Important. It doesn't block those people to do this or these bots. They just don't appear in your analytics anymore, and that's something at least you want to have, because you want to clean your data, and so you don't have to clean it afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a nice benefit.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be the idea of GDPR. Right? It shouldn't be why you bring it
exactly.
on.
Right, but we can have some benefits too, right?
For sure.
So if you look. Well, of course, you're continuously in this process still, because it's an evolving thing, but I think you guys are doing pretty well. You've taken it seriously. You've made some steps on it. Like, what has been the hardest adjustment that your team has had to make, going from, like, let's call it before GDPR data analytics to where you are right now?
I think for the daily business, nothing. That's interesting. Also, at the same time, we try to convince stakeholders that they do their insights, because they should be data informed. So it hits more them than us.
So you're facilitating them more in getting the data out, but exactly.
Exactly. I think what hits us most was not even the content management, but we got, as we had this clear connection to the DPOs, we reworked our privacy notice. And this got kind of also our thing, because it's all around how you work with data. And so people should know what kind of data you track and where it's used and so on. This was a big challenge. At the same time, it helped in two ways. First, you get to know all your stakeholders, because you have to knock on every door.
Yeah, that's a lot at DHL. Yeah.
At the same time, which is really interesting, is you build, we build a data flow map, because we wanted to know where the data is coming from and going to and where it's processed. And in regards of GDPR, it is very helpful to know where your data is processed, what kind of data you use. And if you have this map ongoing, it helps you to understand, to maintain this. So this is something, it's completely away from content management, because it has nothing to do with it, but it has something to do with GDPR and know your data and things going on. And this is something I just can recommend doing. Even so, it took us 3 months and a full one manpower, woman power to do it. But this was worth every outcome. To see this on a map, we did it in Mural to start.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so like basically in a tool, just mapping out every step of how the data flows through the company.
And it, not through the complete company, but until we are responsible, let's phrase it like this. In the end, it was a big thing between spider web and waterfall diagram.
Yeah.
But first, impressive. So also for our stakeholders, I didn't thought this, but we had stakeholders really kind of knocking on our doors after they heard it and said like, oh, that you have done? Can we have a look? Because this is interesting. We can understand which data we have, how we can use it. And at the same time, it makes you compliant.
Yeah.
Because whenever someone is knocking on your door, you can pin on, they're like, yep, this data is going there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's, if we want to, like, we've had a couple of talks now here, and everybody has something to maybe, not necessarily complain, but complain about the GDPR or how it should change a little bit to make things more feasible, but everybody does agree with the principle of the GDPR. So I think, moving forward, we also have to change, and I think making it visible where your data is, like that's going to be an essential element of everything, right? Because if you don't know how it flows and where it is, then the rest of your job becomes impossible. But for a long time, we never did it, right? We just assumed we throw it into this tool, we know how to use it at the end, and what happens in between.
But isn't this a pity that we didn't? So that we needed the privacy regulation to understand our own job. So
I guess we took the shortcut to get to value, right? So the business value is often generated at the end, right? We generate some action, and that does something to the consumer, and hopefully that makes a better customer experience of whatever we're trying to do. And we stepped over a couple of steps, and we figured out that was possible, and we just trusted Google, Adobe, it doesn't matter who it is, in between to solve it and give us the end result, right? So we throw data in on this side, and we get it out on that side, and we do something cool with it. But now we're being made responsible. If you throw data in on this side, you have to figure out what happens here before you start using it there. And I think it's a good thing, but it does require extra resources.
It does. It definitely does. And to be honest, if you would ask me what I would complain about GDPR, if I have some complaints, I think there could be things better for sure. But in general, the idea behind I like. And every argument I had, and Tim, who's also here, Tim Kuipers, we had a lot of argumentation about GDPR on Twitter, and we had a real kind of fight about this, because I said, I like the idea behind, and I like the idea behind no content, no tracking. He was like, no, but it's a you thing. And in the end, I think most often it is a thing of we need to change, and people don't like to change.
Yeah.
And this brings kind of, we have to change, but we are so good in what we do actually. If we change, what does it make with us if you have to change? So change management is something which is definitely needed if you talk about GDPR and how we behave. Yeah,
and that ties in really well, I think, also with the maturity of our industry. So I think, you have a team, right? You work for a large company, there's resources available, you have a team. But for a lot of companies, analytics or digital marketing has started out really small and has stayed small because they were able to do a lot with a lot of heavy lifting by the tools, right? Sure. And nobody really knew how it all worked, but did something, right? The results were pretty okay, and now it's gonna require a more serious approach to actually make that happen, and change, like you said, is that's also part of the resources you're gonna need, right? You're gonna have to invest in that, doing that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Perhaps I don't make friends saying this, but I think that we spend too many years in just looking at marketing data instead of product and data. We invested millions, so not we at DHL, but in general in our industry, there was spent a lot of money into advertising and everything like this, and less in UX, less in the products.
Yeah.
And I think with this, we digged our own hole where we stepped into.
Yeah.
Because if we have focused much earlier on making our product, which is the website, or the app, or the digital product we have, better than just throwing people at it with money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just the easy path, right? The short-term easy path that got followed, and now I think now we have a great example to take maybe a more sustainable, longer route to
hopefully
making data work for us. So anybody who's tuning in, who's at the beginning of their journey, like what would you say? What, like you already said, make a map, right? Map out how your data is flowing through your organization, so to say. What would be another tip, like a must-have thing that they should think about, looking back on your learnings?
In regards to GDPR?
Yes, data privacy, GDPR,
Understand what's happening. So the GDPR itself, 86, 87, 88 sites, I don't know, pages. But still, it is worth at least to flip through it, to understand the basics. Follow people like Stefan Amel, and now I'm pronouncing completely wrong, I think Aurélie. You and your podcast, because I think the more information we can learn, you can get, better you are, the more skills you have. Yeah. If later on you have to do something, and if it hits you out of the blue, it's much harder to do anything than you have at least a clue about what it is, what it makes. So there are sometimes webinars or stories with Max Schrems and those people around. Listen to them, even if it sounds in the beginning like, oh, boring topic, legal GDPR. In the end, I watched one which I was really into it, and so I think in the end I live tweeted the thing because it was so good. So I think make it, I don't want to say habit, but part of your work to inform yourself about what is happening. And the good thing is you don't have to read each legal text, because there are a lot of people who do this for you, but at least listen to those people to understand what's happening. Yeah.
Luckily enough, we don't have to read the legal text, but that's what we try to do with the podcast. Try to make it manageable and like the little first step, and then of course, if you want to go deeper, there's way more specialized content. But we try to take the approach from basically us learning about it ourselves and then interviewing people. So thanks for sharing your knowledge, and hopefully you guys keep on publishing what you're learning, because it's super inspiring for others. We'll talk later at the event.
We'll talk later, and thank you for having me, because I think I listened 2 days after you published the first interview with Aurélie, and I was directly into it. And so every interview you've done, and the last episode, the 5th, where you just showed yourself how you deal with something, is really, really, really valuable. So thank you. Keep up the work.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll be trying to. Hopefully today we're recording a lot of good stuff. I think this was very valuable to our listeners. Thanks.
Thank you.